Welcome back. This is still Rise and Shine, and we're coming to you live from Uyo, the capital city of Akwa Ibom State, Nigeria. Several conversations have already gone on the show this morning. You need to catch up on all that, so follow us across all social media platforms, all of which you can find at spectrumtv.ng. At this point, we're going to be having a focused conversation. The 25th of April, world over, is celebrated as World Malaria Day to push conversations around malaria and the fact that it's actually a killer disease. But how do we maintain and cater for people as a result of this disease? This and more things we're going to be conversing about at this time. We have two gorgeous women joining us in sets this morning to have this conversation. To my very far left, I have Mary Bassi, who is the Advocacy Communications Social Mobilization Officer, Ministry of Health, Akwa Ibom State. Good morning, and thanks for joining us on the show this morning.
Good morning.
Of course, we also have Dr. Eno Atta, Executive Secretary, Akwa Ibom State Primary Healthcare Development Agency. Really good to have you on the show this morning, ma'am.
It's great to be here this morning. Good morning, everyone.
Thank you so much. I think this is the first time Dr. Atta is on set with us.
Finally.
So, yeah, finally. We've had you virtually a couple of times. But at this point, I would like to ask Uya's popular question. How was your journey to Spectrum Television?
It was scenic. Let me put it like that. It was scenic. You got to see the highs and the lows and the dips and. So, but it was very interesting. I can see how our previous meetings didn't happen in the studio. But the lead driver was very good. We have to give kudos to Emmanuel for getting us here. But it was
okay, thank you very much. Yeah, definitely we are here. And I know that Mary Bassi is more like a regular here, so she's not even bothered about the room.
I was telling her that this is like an Oyibo land. Yeah. So you just watch on movies and then see some land with some topography, and then you now see one house standing there.
Thank God we didn't need a visa.
Yeah, right.
It's the real journey.
Okay, but it's good that we are here, and of course we are going to be talking about something very serious, a health concern. It's more like a global health issue, malaria. And I don't think it's we won't start from the definition of malaria and what malaria does and how we get to have malaria. Back in primary school we had the song Anopheles mosquito. We sang it as songs. Anopheles mosquito gives malaria and all of that. But we know that there are a particular group of people now that are mostly affected or infected by this deadly disease. And those are pregnant women, and that's why we need particular attention to these set of people. So can we, Dr. Inota, can you just let us into why those people are more like susceptible to malaria easily, and of course children as well?
Okay, all right, thank you. So as we said, I'm coming from the State Primary Healthcare Development Agency, and the agency oversees the primary healthcare facilities in the state. It's a running joke, when you go out there, if you talk to a man about using the primary healthcare facility, no, it's for women and children, because we make sure that we provide that basic healthcare service for our women and children, particularly women of reproductive age and therefore pregnant women. So yes, as you said, they are particularly vulnerable because of the fact that they're not be only them wakakom, let's put it that way. They're carrying new life and they are open to infections just because their immunity is slightly reduced at that time because they're catering to this new life. So at the primary healthcare facilities, we ensure that we have adequate services for our pregnant women at that very basic stage. So part of the services that we provide for them includes giving them malaria treatments. We call it intermittent preventive therapy in pregnancy. So they're actually given anti-malarials to just make sure that they stay free of malaria. Because at the end of the day, what does malaria, the infection, the parasite do? It lodges in the blood cells. So you don't want a situation where a woman that is already compromised with her, with her blood levels, because she's sharing at this time. You don't want another thing to come and start trying to vie for space. That's why they're vulnerable. So pregnant women, the placenta is growing and it's providing a lot more to the fetus and taking from the woman. They imagine that she becomes infected with the parasites. Of course, they'll go to where there's nice lush blood supply. So that's particularly why we're concerned about pregnant women. And these are the things that we watch out for. We try and get our pregnant women early to the facilities so that they can have at least 2 or 3 treatments with preventive malaria therapy, and then when they do give birth, we follow up with them.
Okay, maybe Basi. Sorry, Ryan. Maybe Basi. There was the distribution of about 5,000 nets in Akwa Ibom State now.
More than
3
million.
Oh, 3 million.
Yes.
Oh, wow. Did I actually say 5,000? 3 million nets distributed to, citizens in Akwa Ibom State. I would like us to go back to that period. How did it go? And would we say that we have, achieved some kind of or some level of results?
I would say that for the nets that were distributed to households in 2022, we have some results, but from the final analysis of the net distribution, we realize that there are some local government areas in the state that got the net, yes, but hang it for use is a problem. So from the report, we had that about 19 local government areas, when the hanging rate is less than 90%, we call it low. Between 0% to 70 something, let me put it at 70 something, it's called low. And there were 5 particular LGAs that theirs was the poorest. Like Okanafon had just 26% of hanging, and then I think Abak had 33. There was one in Seletai, skipped wasn't the other 2 LGAs, but their hanging rate is poor. And we've discovered that when there is this poor hanging rate of the net, it means our people are not sleeping inside the net. Think about it, if a pregnant woman is there, because intermittent preventive treatment that is given to pregnant women, this thing is given to prevent malaria. It's just a simple drop, the fancy that we had been using before, but that is what is now meant for treating or trying to prevent malaria for the pregnant women. And then your wife is accessing the treatment, but is not sleeping inside the net. She's going to be exposed again to mosquito bites that will now bring her to having malaria. And malaria in pregnancy is always very should I say very damaging. It comes with some complications.
Yeah, that was one of the questions I wanted to ask. So maybe you should tell us also the complications that can arise if a pregnant woman is not covered with, all these anti-malarial medication while she's pregnant. So that maybe, sometimes women know they are pregnant, go for antenatal and get the care. No, they won't. You just take malaria and think you can take anything. So let them know what might happen to them if they don't get this care necessary.
Like doctors said, where there is a pool of blood for the pregnant woman is in the placenta. And the mosquito parasite will run into the placenta. It's going to eat up the blood, the red blood cells there. And so it's going to affect both the mother and the baby. The mother is going to have, should I say, low quality of blood that will help for the pregnancy to become like a healthy pregnancy.
So
the
there's a
mother will be
possibility of having
anemic,
exactly.
then the child is not getting the blood supply that it needs. That baby too will become anemic, and then have edema. At the end of the day, the mother stands the risk of losing that child. That child may not come to term. And even if it does come to term, because it hasn't gotten enough nutrition in utero, that child is going to come a very low birth weight if the child gets to term. So there's so many complications. And then, of course, the other complications of malaria, cerebral malaria. The woman is not immune from that. So you can imagine you've stacked so many odds against your pregnancy. Why not just come? to the facility
And
get
so
the care.
also the women now, you know, during labor with the low quality of blood is going to pose a problem in labor. In fact, the tendency to even push the baby, she will not have the energy to push. And then she's now pushing because the blood is of low quality and the clotting factor is reduced. She is going to have a postpartum hemorrhage, which may lead to death. Now, postpartum hemorrhage, or maybe hemorrhage even during the intrapartum, and then she now might die even at the delivery stool because pouring out blood like that makes her have a sudden collapse. And then they will now ask for, maybe there will be a request for blood transfusion. Before that process of even getting a donor, getting the blood screened for safety and all that will done, she might already pass on.
So we're handling a really serious case.
Very serious, serious.
But in recent times, I think that was 2 weeks ago, we're celebrating that after all of these years, eventually we can now say, oh, there is a malaria vaccine. WHO says it's about 85% cleared, but that doesn't mean it can be effectively used here. I think until we can get to 9,500 clearance, then we are saying, okay, but what does this, the hope of this vaccine, what does it really stand to represent in medical health with regards to malaria?
Like with all vaccines, it will prevent or reduce drastically you getting that infection. And we're getting to the stage of a vaccine. So that's the hope for getting this vaccine. And of course, there are several processes to, all the countries that are interested, especially countries that are malaria endemic.
Mostly like sub-Saharan
Africa. And of course, Nigeria is included. So there are many steps towards that. And remember that vaccines are not cheap. And I'm just coming in with the, the basics. Vaccines are not cheap. Meanwhile, we have, I see it as a supportive effort, But if you just took your anti-malarials, like in pregnancy when you're supposed to, if you just slept under your net, then having these vaccines will be an added boost. So we shouldn't forget every other thing that we're doing and say, well, vaccines are coming, so we'll just...
So it's not like the vaccines give you a permanent...
It's not a magic wand.
Like when you take the measles vaccine, it's more like a child can never ever get measles again.
But that's not even true. Like a child can never ever get... No.
Okay, so that's going to be the tendency. When you say that your child is vaccinated from about 35 weeks to 3 years old,
helps to prevent. I didn't say thou shalt never ever.
But do you think that when this vaccine comes up, that adults will be able to have them? Because right now I know that there's like an age peg from a particular month to 3 years old.
So I think that adults eventually, as we see the efficacy of the vaccine in the younger population, adults eventually, but of course it'll be those that are susceptible. For instance, with the COVID vaccines, we're saying that people, especially people that are predisposed, they have other predisposing conditions, please make sure that you cover yourself. Maybe if you're young and healthy and strong, you can afford to get COVID. Do you understand? But so it won't be, it will still, I think, it's a stepwise process. It will be eventually available, but it shall be to those that are particularly susceptible to getting malaria, fatal malaria. So.
Okay, I like the fact that you've also made mention of the fact that even if we are going to be exposed to some vaccine, let's not also disregard taking our anti-malarial drugs. It now brings me to the issue of drug resistance. When you talk about malaria, so these days you have people take a drug that was working for them before, and then all of a sudden you're still taking those drugs, and then it's not working for them. Let's talk about malaria resistance to drugs. How do we handle these kinds of issues? Is it that the malaria has developed to a certain level that drugs can no longer conquer them?
Thank you. So the malaria parasite is trying to survive like every other living thing. So I mean, it's going to keep evolving, as we can see. But the major thing that leads to drug resistance that we've seen, in the medical field is not completing your medications when you're given, taking them, you know, haphazardly, indiscriminate use. In Nigeria, we're still trying to control how people can get drugs over the counter. Abroad, you can't just walk into a pharmacy and pick up any old thing that you feel like. And so the way in which we access our drugs leads to abuse and not being able to complete, not knowing that you should complete the particular dose. Let me even leave malaria briefly. There are people that I know that maybe they have a cold. I'm like, oh, I'm just telling them, oh, well, make sure you take warm fluids, lots of fluids, you know, some vitamin C. They're like, doctor, I started taking ampicillin. I'm like, how did we get there? Yeah. How did we get to ampicillin or ampiclox, or they'll even take augmentin, which, you know, different levels. How did we get there? So it's the same thing with
there's
malaria.
Just a lot of misuse of antibiotics these days.
Totally. So you're misusing antibiotics, you're misusing the antimalarials that are prescribed for you. You know, the doctor says, take it like this, you know, and there's a certain timing, take it like this, and over this number of days. And then you go and take it the first day, you didn't quite take it with the start dose that he told you, then you put in another one, oh, I forgot it at this time, so I'll do this. And then you don't complete the dose. Of course, that will predispose us to having resistance.
I think I'm on that table where, you know, I get sick and then start my medication.
Then start feeling better.
Once you feel better, I feel better and I'm like, oh my God, I can't continue with this drug anymore. But we're looking at a team that says time to deliver zero. Okay, go ahead. Go ahead, please.
And you know, malaria, because everybody around us here, they think that every fever, every body pain is malaria, and they can walk up to the chemist and just get something.
And tell them, that's me, I have malaria.
I have malaria.
They haven't tested
you. They
go
to hospitals and tell doctors they have malaria and you've not tested. Once it is not proven that it is malaria, it is not malaria. But a lot of persons out there are just getting to the chemist, to the pharmacy and pick anti-malarial drugs and they take. When you will have the malaria, what will you take? So
that's a big question. And I think on the heel of that as well, I don't know if it's a new trend. So I tell somebody that, oh, I'm sick, or I call my brother up, oh, I'm sick, or I think it's malaria. And then
typhoid.
Exactly. And then the next thing is malaria typhoid.
This amazing new disease, malaria typhoid.
As you're treating, make sure you treat alongside typhoid and all of that. So it's like as if malaria comes with typhoid now, or there's one kind of sickness called malaria typhoid.
New,
yes.
What's that about?
Just help us out, please. Let's educate people.
I am actually thinking that because they share the same symptoms.
Okay.
But then another thing is the typhoid is like a disease that is caused by fecal contamination. And so you know that source of drinking water particularly, and then the food we eat. Some people are now within us here are now eating outside. You're not the one preparing your food. You can stop anywhere and eat anything. You can drink anything they pack it in sachet and call it pure water. And so where this water is being packaged from, you don't know the source. Where is the soccer way? Where is the soccer where that this
compared to
water,
where the water
is coming from? And now everybody around us in the places we live, almost every household have a sockaway because we don't have the municipal water. And as such, there's a tendency that our waters are contaminated. And these are the waters that are being packaged to sell. And hardly will they run the test and may not find the typhoid titers. And so typhoid may even be there, malaria is not there. But because of the people that are also running the tests, that is why for some places that they are doing malaria microscopy, which is the gold standard for testing for malaria, those doing malaria microscopy in the secondary health facilities, a lot of the laboratory scientists have been trained. At least I know that in all the secondary health facilities in Akwa Ibom State, and I think the tertiary, they have been trained. At least one person is trained who can now mentor and also train others, working with them on identification of malaria parasite in a blood film. But if you go to the roadside laboratories there, It doesn't matter the name, it doesn't matter how clean the place is, but who is running the test. A lot of persons don't know how to identify malaria parasite in the blood film. And so whatever they see when they put the blood there, once the blood is dropped on the slide and they put it under the microscope, whatever is seen is malaria parasite. I can remember when I used to work in one health facility, even when now this microscopy has some rules to follow. There must be electricity, and then the slides must not be rewashed. You just discard it after use. But I was in that facility working all year round, and I was seeing that what they do is they take the blood sample, put on the slide, and then put on the window panes.
Oh, wow.
Yes, I've seen that.
And the prisoners are coming to cut grass in that facility. Even sand or some droplets of whatever, or what of the dry season, dust will settle there. At the end of the day, they mount it under the microscope, and whatever is seen is malaria parasite.
So
Extra pluses.
even if you're seeing sands and dust and everything,
Under the
and
microscope,
grass,
yeah.
it's malaria
Has
parasite.
identified something. It is malaria parasite. So
Serious.
the WHO, PMI for states that USAID that is supporting the states
strongly.
is training people of that category, as a medical laboratory scientists, to identify the parasite. And so when they identify the parasite, in identifying, you will know the parasite load. You will not just say plus and all that. You should be able to see what is the parasite load in the certain microgram of blood sample that you took. So that's the thing. That's what makes the difference between facilities that people are trained and facilities that
So there's just a whole lot of problems here.
Yes.
So it comes from us, the things we consume, and even to the medical laboratories where we go to conduct some of this tests and all of that. So it's a big problem. But let's look at what Akwa Ibom State is doing. Executive Secretary, Primary Health Care Development Agency, AKS. We are saying that the theme for this year is time to deliver zero malaria. And just like Mary Bassi has said, people are not even sleeping under the treated mosquito net. So it's a problem. So how do we achieve this in Akwa Ibom State?
So achieving zero malaria, it's not impossible. It's definitely possible. I think we just need to ramp up on what we're already doing. And increasing, that's why I wanted you to get her appellation, right? The advocacy, social mobilization. A lot of times people are just ignorant. They're just ignorant, or maybe they've heard it once, but they hear the other story much more, the story that is not right, So it's just increasing the advocacy that we have to our communities and engaging them in a deeper way. And then for us at the primary healthcare facilities, ensuring that our facilities come up more and more to scratch as they should be. You understand? So for the states, we finally started engaging more with the National Primary Healthcare Development Agency, and we're getting direct support from them to give to the facilities, so that whatever it is you have, so that little side lab that you're supposed to have that has been defunct for years, you can resurrect it. I mean, it doesn't take that much, but because the funds were not coming in the first place, they couldn't do that. So we'll make sure that those are in place. And then when partners, like she mentioned, USAID comes in to the states. I mean, Akwa Ibom is one of the states in the country that they are giving their full backing to. I think for us, it's practically all our facilities. In other states, they just pick and choose. So with this opportunity, we can also use it not just at the secondary or tertiary level, but at the primary healthcare level in our side labs. The people that are there, we can also train them to recognize properly what you're actually looking at in your slides. So advocacy goes a long way. Constant engagement and encouraging our women to come into the facilities. Now we're even encouraging the men to come into the facilities. There was a facility I went to in Umbo. Once again, a partner brought up an innovation that they will have a men's it's like a men-friendly clinic, let me put it that way. And what is friendly to men? Having a place to at least hang out with your friends and talk about something. So they have like a pool table. Bring your wife to the facility and wait for her. And then while you're waiting, they'll take your blood pressure. They can even, run some tests on you, because you can't just say, man, men want to feel strong and healthy even when they are down, So so innovative things like that, trying to attract more people. So the more you hear the right messages, the more likely you are to keep to them, as opposed to, you just hear it once, maybe World Malaria Day, you hear something on the radio, and that's that. Yeah.
So we're still talking about...
add something.
Okay.
Recently, we are discovering that religious leaders are very effective in this, because, we were having people now use the churches as where they can go and die. A lot of persons were, instead of going to the facility, they are going to pray. And so we were losing more lives going to the church, not because they couldn't access care, but they were like, maybe some fears were instilled in them about going to the facility to seek for care. But now we are engaging with religious leaders. We give them key messages that could also be used while they're preaching, because we see that any sick member of the church, it might affect the pastor, it might affect their offering, it might affect, yes, if your member, and when your member dies, the sorrow will affect others. Others will be afraid. So we try to simplify our messaging, bring in the religious leaders. For instance, for this World Malaria Day, we had to go and do a sensitization in one of the biggest church in the city there, the city of Uyo. But besides, Primary Healthcare Development Agency, we're having an engagement meeting with the faith-based leaders. We send our messages. We carried a letter to them and said, this is what we are doing. And apart from what we are doing, please, these messages, we attached the messages, circulate it. Leaders of CAN, let it go around all your churches that pastors are speaking concerning malaria prevention, sleeping inside the net, early access to facility when maybe your child has fever. And so there are some that are doing, because we also do review meetings with them. We do that, we review to see what they are doing, and they will now give us their report. This is what happened. I have even seen one pastor from Oron Axis said the other time we had the review meeting that he now discovered that those things that people even say about the healthcare providers are not true. Because some persons say they're very harsh, they're this, they're that. But that he had to carry a member by himself to the facility and didn't see that. Then the other one came and said, Daddy, this thing is not the way they say. That the nurse that I found was very sociable and attended to me. And at the end of the day, I realized that it was not the thing I thought I had.
So engaging faith-based leaders is very productive in terms of disseminating information, the right information, and all of that.
Well, this really helps. We can't really push more questions. We are out of time. But then just to throw it in there, invest, innovate, and implement is a large scope that needs to be covered by the medical agencies. But a quick question I was even going to ask, in terms of, we are living in a generation where self-testing is something you can literally test yourself for various diseases. Is that also possible and good for malaria also?
So you finish testing yourself, are you prescribing for yourself? You see what I mean? So at the end of the day, whether it's you self-testing, at least it gives you an idea that no, there's something wrong. Please go back to your health facility.
So at the end of the day,
and they have rapid test kits. Yes, as well.
So at the end of the day, we must all learn to use PHCs and
I see it as a normal thing. See it as just walking to keep healthy. And how many of us here have actually done our health checks for the year? Your annual health checks. You need to check yourself. It's not just your car that needs, that MOT. You are an amazing machine. You need to go and check yourself. And I'm saying this proudly because my target is always the first quarter of the year. Go and do a proper
health check.
Yes.
We want to say a very big thank you. Our time is up. Our time is up. Sorry, Mary Bassi. Of course, Mary Bassi is Advocacy, Communication and Social Mobilization Officer, Ministry of Health. Thank you so much for your time with us this morning talking malaria. And of course, Dr. Eno Atta, who is Executive Secretary at Akwa Ibom State Primary Healthcare Development Agency. Thank you so much for coming.
You're welcome. It's wonderful that we were able to make it today.
Definitely.
Great time, great conversation. All right, that's basically all that we can take on Rise and Shine today. It's been great conversation. You know that you need to take your health seriously. Malaria is a serious disease, but then there is help all around those basic things. Sleep under your mosquito treated net. Increase your use of fluids. If you feel, funny, get to a PHC, let a proper test and prescription be done for you. But then, my name is Uyai Anek, and thanks to everyone who was a part of the show today. Let's do this again tomorrow.
Yeah, definitely great show it was, and we say thank you to a productive crew, or production crew, I beg your pardon. And remember, malaria, do not resort to self-help. It will not help you in any way. My name is Janice Cobham. We'll see you again tomorrow for another edition of Rise and Shine. I will leave you with Sports Central now, Blyden Ukem and Isaac.